Hi, Roy Trevelyan here, BioBites. Today, literally, we're going to go full circle and talk about nutrient cycling. When we were in the compost, you may recall I had this nifty poem. It's that energy is not recycled, but nutrients are recycled. So today, we're going to talk about the most important nutrient, and that is nitrogen. Mrs. Trevelyan, do you remember why nitrogen is so important?
It's the limiting factor for protein and DNA.
That is correct. I think she cheated. Right? Nothing can grow without nitrogen. Without nitrogen, you can't make protein and you can't make DNA, which means you can't make more cells. If you can't make more cells, you don't get to grow. So today I want to talk a little bit about nitrogen and how it's the first number in the fertilizer bag, right? It's what makes things green. And we're going to show you a couple adaptations here, actually 3 different adaptations for ways to obtain nitrogen. Anyway, nitrogen is in the air. 80% of the air is nitrogen. But Mother Nature has played a wicked trick on all plants. These little green, sickly looking plants down there, that's bad artistry. But those little plants down there are looking at 80% nitrogen in the air, and they can't use a single drop of it. They are surrounded by nitrogen, but they can't use a single drop. Something has got to take the nitrogen from the air and put it into the soil as fertilizer so that the plants can obtain it, turn it into amino acids, which will turn into proteins. Then you can grow big and strong. If you remember my succession, pond succession, right? The algae couldn't grow until we put too much nitrogen on the soil. When the nitrogen washed off into the soil, into the ponds, the algae began to grow. What was the limiting factor before that? Algae couldn't grow until we gave it nitrogen, right? Now, all nutrients cycle. And so when you're looking here, nitrogen fixation is going to take the nitrogen from the air and put it back into the soil in this form called nitrates. That's a 3. NO3 is nitrates. That's what plants are able to assimilate or take in. Now, we talked about legumes in one of the other videos. Legumes are plants with pods. I'll show you my plant over here, my sensitive plant. It has pods on its roots that have bacteria. They're able to take the nitrogen from the air and put it into the soil. We saw our compost, right? That's a dead something or other, right? When things decompose, there are bacteria that turn those into nitrates so that plants can assimilate that into protein and DNA. And the one I really want to show you today is an adaptation for ponds, actually bogs. And there is a bog around here called volo bog, but this is my carnivorous plant that I've kept alive for a long time. In fact, it just flowered. And so if you watch the video, maybe I'll give you some of the seeds if you subscribe to my video. And these carnivorous plants, they are producers. They do photosynthesis. But what can't they get in a bog is nitrogen. So in a minute, I'm going to take this little mealworm and we're going to feed it to that plant. I'm giving it fertilizer. What do you think's in this mealworm, Mrs. Trevelyan?
Nitrogen.
Nitrogen, right? It's going to take the nitrogen in this bug so that it can assimilate it so that it can grow big and strong. Because most plants, the limiting factor is either going to be nitrogen or phosphorus. We'll talk about phosphorus later. How are we doing time-wise?
3, almost 4.
Oh man, we're going to be good today. All right. Now, I mentioned, though, it had to be a cycle, right? In order to be a cycle, we got to have something returning the nitrogen back to the atmosphere. And there's a different type of bacteria in the soil called denitrifying bacteria. That's not such a bad name because it's going to take the nitrates, turn them back into nitrogen. It's a full cycle. Because remember, nutrients are recycled, energy is not. You drew food chains the other day. They should not be in a cycle, right? In fact, I'd leave decomposers out of your food chains if you ever have to make one for the test because it's going to get you going in a circle. When we talk about decomposers or detritivores, another fancy name, we're talking about them, what they do in terms of nutrients. They're putting the nutrients back into the soil, right? We showed you the dog poop. Dog, wherever that dog pooped, nitrogen went back into the soil. What was stopping that grass from growing was nitrogen. The poop gave it the nitrogen. Now the grass can grow because what 2 molecules?
Protein.
and
DNA.
DNA. This is trouble. It's catching on. All right. So this denitrifying bacteria is going to return it back up to the air, and we got a cycle. Unlike my food chains, which represent energy, these are going to go in circles. Finally, before I feed the carnivorous plant, remember our friend eutrophication. We are putting way too much nitrogen on our crops and way too much on our grass. It's washing off into the water. And what is the limiting factor for algae to grow is nitrogen. If you put enough nitrogen in the pond, we get those algae blooms. Algae blooms are going to choke out those ponds, right? They suck up all the oxygen at night, kills the pond. Yep. All right. So let me show you these guys first, and then we'll do the carnivorous plant last.
Just about 6.
Great. I'm going to be just in time. So this, one of my students got me, is a pitcher plant, a giant pitcher plant. If you look here, there's a little pitcher, and inside are little hairs, and inside way at the bottom is a little water. Oh, there may be a bug in there. Why are they catching bugs, you think? Because these plants...
Decompose.
Yeah, they'll decompose in there, but these plants don't get nitrogen. Nobody's fertilizing them. So they had to develop these little pitchers, right? So that the plant can, or the bug can fall in there and they absorb the nitrogen.
When it decomposes.
Yeah, they'll use enzymes though.
Huh.
There's little enzymes in these plants. But yeah, that's close enough. You remember our buddy, the sensitive plant? By the way, it flowered. So again, if you subscribe to my video and you want these seeds, after it flowers and makes seeds, it looks like they're from Dr. Seuss land, don't they? Anyway, and it's much better today. So if you want to see it fall, watch it fall here. Where are you at? All of these fall down as an adaptation. What is this type of plant? Well, this plant is a legume. They have nitrogen-fixing bacteria on their roots that are able to take the nitrogen from the air, take it down into the roots, and turn it into nitrates. The plant can now assimilate that nitrogen and make protein and DNA.
I was still thinking about this.
I know.
I want to see.
Go ahead.
Now, what does this do, though? Is that producing
That's
nitrogen?
osmotic pressure that's closing. All right, let's feed the fly trap before we go here. So, a couple things now. It already ate on its own sometime during the year. I don't know if you can see the one with the bug in it. So, he really doesn't need any more nitrogen. He took care of it himself. But I'm going to feed him this mealworm. I'm going to stand in the back.
Right here.
We're going to trigger those little hairs. And hopefully he's going to close and eat this mealworm. Whoa. Oh. The mealworm's too active. Oh!
Oh,
Gosh darn it.
All right.
All right, let's try this one.
Wait a minute. I don't know. Okay.
This one you may not do it again. No, I think because that other fly's in there.
All right, let's see. How about we rotate him around?
Yeah, well, find one you. Can
With
you get
this
the
one?
camera on? Here?
Yeah, sure. Can you get an angle on him?
Yeah, can you?
Yeah. Oh, I don't know where you are. Oh. Yeah.
Hey!
Oh.
Oh! Well, no nitrogen going in that one. All right, let's try one more time. Oh, here's one right here. Let's try this guy. My mealworm's a little too active. Should give him a break. Oh, he even got the tweezers that time. Get in there. All right, digestive enzymes are going to destroy that bug. What is that fly trap going to get? Nitrogen. What's he going to do with them? He's going to make protein and DNA. That is my BioBites.
Get back out there.
Subscribe, like, and comment. See ya.
Bye. Ask lots of questions. I did.
Yes.